Good afternoon. Nice to see you again here. My name's Sarah, and I'm here to talk to you about passive and stative passive forms. As we learn about passive form and the stative passive form today, we can't go past using the active voice. The active voice is the opposite of the passive voice. You can see here in the diagram, the active voice uses the format or the form subject, action, and object, whereas the passive voice uses the object, the action, and then the subject. Now, let's look at those active sentences. As I stated previously, an active sentence is the opposite of a passive sentence. So therefore, when an active sentence has a subject that performs the action of the main verb, a passive sentence will have an action of the main verb that is done by the subject. Now let's look at the passive form. There's a few things that we need to know about the passive form. The passive form states an action. The focus is on the receiver of the action. The focus is not on the person who is stating that action. The passive voice is usually used in formal situations such as speaking and writing. I would like to tell you about one of the most famous works of literature in the world. The book is called War and Peace. It was written a long time ago. It is usually studied in literature classes. I will share a copy of the ebook text that was shared online by a friend of mine. As I told you about the novel War and Peace, I used the passive form. The book is called War and Peace. The focus is on the book, not the person who is talking about the book. It was written a long time ago. The focus of the sentence is still on the book, it. It is usually studied in literature classes. Once again, the focus is still on the book. I will share a copy of the ebook text with you that was shared online by a friend of mine. Once again, the focus is on the book. In these examples, the focus is on the receiver of the information, not the person sharing or stating the information. The person performing the action is mentioned in the last example. However, in the passive form, it's not necessary to include the by plus whom form. This is because it's often not important who wrote the book, or perhaps it is unknown. It could also be because it is very obvious and not needed to be mentioned. We only need to include the by plus whom form in the phrase when it's important to include who the performer of the action is, or when we know who performed the action, that we are interested in them. The passive form, or the passive voice, uses a form of be plus the past participle. The past participle is the third form of a verb, also known as verb 3. For example, eat, ate, or eaten. Now, in the passive form, if we want to name who the performer was, we use a by phrase. Now let's look at the stative passive. The stative passive is a special kind of passive sentence. We're not expressing an action. We use it to describe a state or a condition. The form is the same as the passive form. We use a form of be plus the past participle. Let's go back to our earlier example about War and Peace. It is regarded as one of literature's finest achievements. Leo Tolstoy is known as the author of the book. There is no action mentioned in these sentences. The past participle is helping to describe the subject. Regarded describes the literature, and is known describes the author. Therefore, in these sentences, the past participle functions more like an adjective than like a verb. We also cannot use a phrase by, as we're not able to name the performer or the person that is stating this action. We add a preposition after be plus the past participle, and it doesn't have to be by. And that brings us to a conclusion for my presentation today about passive form and stative passive form. Thank you for listening. Don't forget you can click on the link below to get a free ebook version of War and Peace.